Back, everybody, to Curses, Coincidences, and Conspiracies. This week I'm behind the camera. Sam here is going to talk to you about one of the conspiracies actually pretty intrigued about. So Sam, can you tell us what conspiracy we're going to be talking about today?
Today we're going to be talking about the Black Knight satellite, which is a satellite that has been seen by NASA, has been seen by many other countries. A big one is Soviet Russia, and also it's been kind of heard from by many of like the great ancient people of the world. Like Nikola Tesla created a satellite array up in Colorado Springs that he first heard a transmission from the Black Light satellite, or kind of like a message / transmission that was emitted from it, that like other countries like Russia and the United States have both been very intrigued in the unidentified satellite that has been up there and has been spotted like during the Sputnik 1 and Sputnik 2. They've caught pictures of it like near where the Sputniks were at that certain given time. It has said that it's been in orbit for the past 13,000 years, and it came from an original place of the Epsilon Boots star system, is like where its origination is from, and it's also sending signals back to that kind of star system. Like still nowadays, there's still like lots of reports of it, and they've depicted one message from it, I believe. And like many of different magazines have looked about it. Like the New York Times wrote a big article about it back in like 1964. And like other like places have done it as well. The Black Light side was in a polar orbit. Astronauts and scientists calculate the object's weight is over 10 tons, which would be the heaviest artificial satellite set to our orbit's planet, or in orbit of our planet right now.
And then it's like black in color, right?
Yeah, it's like a giant black, like kind of, it's not really like a satellite shape, like our normal satellite shape.
It almost looks like a jet.
Yeah, it almost looks like a jet.
Like
almost like a stealth fighter.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen pictures, and even in some pictures, like, it does look like one of those stealth bombers that we have. And then some, it kind of looks like almost a chrysalis, like a cocoon in a way, from the top. It's pretty strange. I mean, Alan, you've seen the Phoenix Lights. I mean, do you think this could be a artificial satellite? I mean, it's...
I think if it's not something that is alien intelligence, then it's definitely something very peculiar. I do think that there is something there. I don't think it's made up, but the issue, if it is actually, you know, a satellite, or if it's just some random piece of meteorite that's been stuck around. But then again, I mean, we have actually been able to catch radio signals and shit from this thing. So there's kind of a catch-22 with it. It feels like a little bit more of a rock, but at the same time, if you look at it more than just a piece of space rock, then you're kind of leaning pretty heavy into the conspiracy side of things. Again, this is like almost Area 51 big, but it's not on the planet, it's just in our orbit.
Yeah, and if it's a satellite, it definitely seems like something we've actually done. Now, we've sent probes and stuff to other solar systems with radio signals and stuff like that.
It could just be, from my perspective, it's probably just another civilization kind of observating our planet in a sense, because if it has actually been around for the past 13,000 years and said to have been transmitting signals for the past 50, then if we could get into the satellite's data somehow, we could see what really happened, because if it was around for that long, then it saw what the ancient culture said were fighting in the skies, which was like a giant battle in space, essentially between if you look into much conspiracies, is between two different types of like extraterrestrial beings, the beings of light and the beings of darkness, which the beings of darkness were in the certain conspiracy like reptilianoid beings that were fighting over the earth, essentially.
Well, and that's kind of part of it too. If it is a satellite and it's been around for 13,000 years and it was from an intelligent race elsewhere in the universe, don't you think after 13,000 years that it might have been a little outdated and we'd start seeing updates of the satellite? Don't you think we'd see more recent things of a little bit different designs and things? Because what do? We build something, we test it, we come up with new technology, we build it again, we send it again. Don't you think we should see that progression? Even though they're, obviously much, much more advanced than we are, they should still have that advance in technology every so often, especially if you're talking about, a 13,000 year span. And obviously it's going to take a long time to get something that's updated, but again, if we're talking a 13,000 year span, and if it's only been active for the last, Sam said, like 50 years that we know of, why would it only be active for the last 50 years? Or is it our technology that's just been
able to catch up to it
in the last 50 years?
Well, and then there's also that theory. I think I've actually read a theory about the Black Knight where they're like, it could be a satellite that's transmitting, but by the time that we've been able to actually process it, that civilization might be wiped out completely.
Yeah. Very true. This is a very valid point.
It's because, like, when you look up at stars, which we're in Cast Rock, so you don't see any, but when you look up in stars, most of the lights you're seeing are gone. Like, if you went to try to reach that star, it would start gone like thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
And so, it got here, and they might have been watching humans, 13,000 years ago, back when, woolly mammoths and stuff were around. And maybe we didn't intrigue them back then.
True. But there was another thing that I saw, that in 1963 that Gordon Cooper was launched into space, and on his last orbit he reported seeing a green glowing object in front of his capsule in the distance moving towards his spacecraft. The Mucha tracking station in Australia, which Cooper reported the object to, picked up the unidentified object on radar traveling east to west.
And if I'm not miscorrect, so maybe we'll just call this conspiracies of space UFOs and stuff plus Black Knight, but didn't Neil Armstrong and stuff say they saw UFOs or something like that?
The first astronauts into space, at the time couldn't mention what happened, but once they became to the point where they're basically too old and almost dead and didn't really care what happened to their lives at that point, reported that when they first went up into space, an object came up to their ship, scanned the whole ship and everybody in it, and then left. Literally a red beam of light scanned the whole ship and everybody there, and then they just drifted away. So there's definitely things up there. There's been many videos reporting it. There's lots of hoax videos out there, so you got to really, really be careful of what you're watching. But there's lots of actual videos out there. There was one that NASA released and then tried to cover up, or actually I think it wasn't even released. I think it was kind of leaked more of a sense. But there was a what was it called? It was like a tail from one of the spaceships up in space that was just got detached and was floating off. And once it hit this certain point, there was a bunch of objects that were moving around it, that they tried to claim as like ice crystal shards just on the window, but ice crystal shards don't really move around. They kind of are like in one spot, but these objects were going closer and moving, like passing between the tether. Actually, it was a tether, but like they were passing in front of the tether, and like some of the objects were, the tether was easily like thousands of like miles away from where they were, and these objects were really massive because they would almost engulf the entire tether as it would like pass by. So there's definitely lots of strange stuff happening in space that we don't know about, and hopefully we'll know about soon, but like I think they're waiting for a certain generation to kind of pass away before they release it, because that generation is not ready for that type of information, whereas like the younger generations are more wanting to know than really trying to be afraid of what will happen if certain documents that we have were released to the public by the government when the time is right. Like most things nowadays, I think, is trying to, like, most movies, most games, most music all have some sort of extraterrestrial message behind them, whether people notice it or not. There's definitely hidden subliminal stuff about extraterrestrials and like everything going on within our nowadays like world that they're trying to disclose all this information. They're just trying to make us more ready for it, so that when it is disclosed, everybody doesn't react like kind of panicked and like start freaking out.
Anything to add?
Well, just kind of adding to the government conspiracy with extraterrestrials, I heard one that was actually really interesting, and I believe it was on Unsealed Alien Files is where I originally heard it. And this could be part of the reason that we don't hear about it as people, as a people of a government, is our government, specifically in the United States, that our government was trading alien technology in exchange for planetary resources, or for extraterrestrials to have the freedom to do the experiments they wanted to do on, like, our livestock, or if you hear people getting abducted. And that's, you know, kind of part of the conspiracy, is the government just wipes it off and keeps it hush hush, like it's a big joke, because they already have, you know, a contract in place with these extraterrestrials, and that's part of the exchange program, is their technology for our resources and their ability to research on us and our planet.
And they do seem to hush like UFO things that, you know, like Roswell, that was hushed up pretty quickly after they said they didn't know what it was, and then they said it was a saucer, then like not...
The one that kind of, the only one in history of nowadays UFO sightings, the only one that they tried to hush up but kind of got too big too quickly was the Phoenix Lights. The Phoenix Lights is the biggest UFO thing that has happened, because that the news covered it for a while. It was all over the place. I mean, I believe that they even tried to cover it up. I mean, they did. They said it was military flare testings, but...
Well, they said it was flares from an A-10 Warthog.
Yeah.
And I don't know, again, I like a lot of the military government conspiracies as well, and I don't know if you have ever seen the flares from an A-10 Warthog, but the way flares work is they run out, they burn for, 10 or 20 seconds, and then they're gone. And they'll usually come out horizontal, and then they'll slowly start to fall, and then they're gone. And these lights just sat in the sky, just for still. Yeah, and they were seen in 3 different states, and also in Mexico.
Thousands.
Yeah, and that's just such a huge area, and the area covered by the lights themselves, from light to light, was just massive in itself as well. And it definitely could have been military aircraft, or it could have been extraterrestrials, but I mean, we'll never know.
Yeah, and I mean, that's something with you having seen it that's really stuck with you personally.
Yeah.
I mean, and for all we know, it could have been a hybrid military.
Well, and that could have been,
Military testing.
it still could have been a link between the two. It could have been a ship we created in exchange for alien technology, using alien technology for a new experimental military aircraft. I mean, the possibilities are almost endless. And I mean, being a conspiracy nut, talking about, all these military experiments and aliens and stuff like that, I know it seems a little far-fetched, but if you just open up your mind a little bit and just let in 1% of possibility from each one of those things in, it really doesn't seem that far-fetched.
No. And I read a book called Vostok, and it was talking about how there's like an object in the Lake Vostok in Antarctica that they think might be.
Call it USO.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't technically call them that anymore, but I still call them that just because that was the old term for them. But non-identified submerged objects.
Yeah.
Lots of our military and other world militaries have seen USOs. There's an actual video of a fishing ship that saw a USO, essentially, a UFO, but like there was a ship. There was just a fishing ship. They were out fishing. They saw a disc object quickly come next to their, like, basically I would say easily 10 or 100 to like 50 feet from their ship, sat above the water. Then you see two jets fly by. It dips straight into the water.
I've seen that one.
And then a helicopter comes up to the ship, and they like hide the camera because they knew it was the government. They're just like, no, you saw nothing happened. Like, there's definitely videos out there. You just kind of have to really pay attention because there's lots of fakes out there. There's a lot of fake UFOs and fake videos, but there are some real ones out there. Like, the reason that there are so many fakes, I believe, is just the government trying to cover up the real ones, because there are real ones out there. People definitely have posted them. There's many that are very interesting. There are many that you really have to like watch almost a couple times to even like kind of see if it is like, if it's definitely like faked or not. But like, there are definitely a lot of actual UFO sightings out there. Like, my cousin has like recently talked to me about, like, now that we were gotten into like the age of like 4K and HD, there's some videos that are like gotten so crazy that like it's gotten to the point where like you can see like very weird stuff on these crafts that like is not normal. And then also there's like lots of hot spots, and there's definitely channelers, which we'll get into channeling in a different episode, because I definitely know a lot about channeling, and there's lots of interesting things that have been said through people that do channel with other beings, or essentially potentially themselves from like different points in time, because you never know with channeling who you're really talking to.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely get into channeling, because there's a very interesting thing that some channelers have said about what we're going to be starting to see and go into. As of last year till 2033, we're going to start this kind of contact with a race of beings here shortly. And they could, back to the black light satellite, they could be the beings from that star system if they're still in existence right now, because who knows what happened to it. Like, we'll get into a topic about Mars one time too, because I have a very interesting theory about Mars and why we have a terminology for Martians like separate from extraterrestrials. Like, that's what really started making me like look into Mars as like a different type of ordeal, because why would we have a separate word called Martians opposed from just UFOs and aliens? Like, Martians is its own thing. It has its own like wording behind it, so there's definitely something there. And it's very interesting because we found something recently in the Bermuda Triangle. There's two pyramids